if you can see in this data, the given variables are load, which has a unit of kilonewton, elongation, which has a unit of millimeter, and then there is strain, stress, slope. Strain doesn't have any unit because it's a dimensionless quantity. Stress, it is megapascal, and slope is the ratio between stress and strain. We look into it more as we go into the problem. Here, the right hand side of the table is the calculated data. So we will have to basically calculate this data by ourselves. The given data is load versus elongation. Now we have seen how to use this load versus elongation data for calculating material stiffness. This was previously. But now we will be seeing how to use the same data or similar data to calculate our stress strain and the respective Young's modulus. Here you can see we have loads and we have elongation. With load and elongation, we will have our strain and stress. And strain is nothing but the elongation of the actual length. So the actual length is usually given for a problem. And when it comes to the gauge length and also actual length, also termed as gauge length. When we take metal testing, gauge length is the word which we will be using. So when it comes to gauge length, we always have a fixed length. And now strain is nothing but the elongation divided by the initial length. So here whatever strain we see is the value which we gained from the ratio between the elongation and the actual length of the specimen used. Then we have to calculate our stress. Based on stress theory, force divided by the cross-sectional area is given as stress. So we always know our cross-section of the material and we can use the load value that it is getting and then calculate the respective stress. Once we have our stress and strain, the acquired stress is divided by strain, from which our slope is obtained. Finally, this slope is our Young's modulus. By slope, here we have to plot all our stress and strain values against each other to get our Young's modulus. By plotting these values, we also find other materials like different stresses that include fracture stress, ultimate stress, yield stress, and the proportional stress and proportional limit. Although we have all these values, the highest value of the slope that we can get from the graph will be our Young's modulus for this problem. So after plotting, this is our data. We have plotted the stress strain data. So on the left hand side you can see the entire plot for all the data, and in the right hand side you can see that the plot is just for the elastic region. This kind of a plot will help us to closely monitor the various aspects that happen inside the elastic region easily. As you can see from this diagram, these two diagrams are proper examples for a totally plotted data and for a elastic region based plotted data. And if we can see in the table which is given, the diameter and gauge length is already given for the specimen used. From whatever we have plotted, we have taken the values for the limiting stress, yield stress, ultimate stress and fracture stress. And the values are for limiting stress, it's 55, yield stress it's 71, ultimate stress it's 126 and fracture stress is 112.8. To figure out the yield stress easily, if we can see in this plot that we have made inside the elastic range, when we extrapolate our line from the 70th mark of stress, we will get the yield stress as 71.3, which will be the closest to this area. We know that yield stress is the first point where the material is transitioning between plastic and elastic regions. So right now the transition is somewhere around here. But one thing which we have to note is that it is more than acceptable if you use the previous point as your limiting stress. If we go back in the slide, you can see that the fracture and the ultimate stress is given, and the highest stress here would be our ultimate stress. But other than this, a data which is not given in this table, which is the Young's modulus, can also be calculated using the given sheet data. In this sheet data, we already discussed that the Young's modulus is the highest value which we derive when we are finding the slope. And in this sheet, the highest value which we can get from the slope is 47,500. But there is one catch. This Young's modulus value can only be obtained from the first 4 values, because Young's modulus value always falls inside the proportionality limit. And by the given graph, we know that the yield stress happens at 71.3. So any slope value below this 71.3 would be our Young's modulus. Now that we have a better understanding of the stress strain plot, we can go ahead and solve a problem based on that. So the problem which we will be seeing here will be from the given data. Member AB is a rigid member. We have one more member which is CD, and this CD member is made of 2014 T6 aluminium, and the cross sectional area of CD will be 0.5. General given data can be seen as AD is equal to 3 feet, AB in total is 8 feet, and C is the midpoint, so AC is 4 feet. So we are asked to find the magnitude of force P, which is the load given here, and it is also given that due to this force P, the point B is displaced to 0.3 inches. Now let us solve the problem. So basically from the question we will have to find the value of P, which is the load applied to deflect B to about 0.03 mm. So there are few given values which we can take from the material data sheet. Those values are, first it's the Young's modulus of aluminium, and that would be E of Al. Its Young's modulus we know that is denoted as E, and E of Al is the Young's modulus of aluminium. And the value of Young's modulus will be 10.6 into 10 to the power 3 KSI. Next, we can also get the value of the yield stress of aluminium, which is sigma y, and that is 60 KSI. Next, we will take the triangle ADC. The value of AD is 3 feet, and when we convert it into inches, it's going to be 36, and when we add the deflection with it, it's going to be 36.03. DC will be L2 after elongation value, and AC will be 4 feet, which is 48 inches. Now to find the value of L2, we'll use trigonometry. L2 will be equal to root of 36.03 the whole square plus 48 the whole square. So therefore we'll get the value of L2, which is 60.09. Same way we'll take the triangle again, but this time it's before the elongation, and we are going to take the value of L1. And again AD is going to be equal to 36 and AC is equal to 48. So the value of L1 after trigonometry calculation is going to be 60. Now this is going to be 60.09 mm. Same way L1 is going to be 60 mm. From this, as for the elongation, it's going to be L2 minus L1. So elongation equals L2 minus L1, and we'll get 0.09 mm. Now that we got the value of elongation, the next thing we have to see is if the stress applied here, or the stress that the membrane or this beam is undergoing, it should fall inside the proportionality limit. So only if it falls inside the proportionality limit, we can continue this problem with the equilibrium equations. For that stress to fall inside the proportionality limit, it should be lesser than sigma y, which we just saw here. Sigma y is our yield stress of aluminium. It should be, the stress that this beam is undergoing should be lesser than sigma y. So we know that right now we are going to calculate the stress that this membrane CD is undergoing. Now for that, sigma CD will be equal to Young's modulus into epsilon. So we know that epsilon is equal to elongation divided by the original length. This is from the strain formula. So now, because we know the Young's modulus from the given values, we will substitute those values here, that is 10.6 into 10 to the power 3 into, we found the elongation previously, so we will substitute that value here, 0.09 divided by the original length, which is 60. Now after simplification, sigma CD is equal to 15.92 KSI, which is obviously lesser than sigma y, which is equal to 60 KSI. Now we know that the stress value falls well under the proportionality limit, because 15.92 is lesser than 60. Now we got sigma CD. The next step for us is to calculate the load, which is P. So for that, first we need to create the free body diagram for our beam. As for the free body diagram, so we will take a rectangle. We know that we have a point A here and we have a load P here, and also this is a cantilever beam. Because this is a cantilever beam, we will be having one horizontal reaction and one vertical reaction. So the horizontal reaction is going to be AX and vertical reaction is going to be AY. As for these membranes, which is A, D and C, so we have a resultant force FCD that's acting here in this membrane, which is CD membrane, and using trigonometry, and we know that the value of AD is 3 and the value of AC is 4. So using trigonometry, it's going to be FCD into 3 by 5, and our horizontal reaction is going to be FCD into 4 by 5. Now from Hooke's law, which we already saw, sigma is equal to force by area. Therefore FCD is equal to sigma CD into area. The area is already given with the question, so that will be equal to 7.96. We've just substituted the value of sigma CD and A here. So for reference, I'll just write the values of these two variables into 0.5. By simplifying, we'll get the force as 7.96. So now, why did we draw the free body diagram here? To get our load value. So to get the load value, we are going to use the equilibrium equation. Summation of all the moments will be equal to 0. So we can also write it as the first reaction, which is 3 by 5 into FCD minus P into 96. Here 96 is the length of the beam, which is 8 feet, which is equal to 96 mm. Now with that, We also know the value of F series, therefore P into 96 will be equal to 7.96 into 3 by 5, and P will be equal to 7.96 into 3 by 5, and we get 96 here. So therefore the value of P will be equal to 2.39. Because we are dealing with inches here, our load is going to be 2.39 psi.